So this is the first edition of the Yu-Gi-Oh blog, and I'm going to be talking about preparation and what to expect at Nationals, whether you're going or not, like my predictions for it. And I'm going to be talking about Cat Synchro, the deck type, a little bit more in depth. And I'll be talking about accusations of cheating from the 2009 European Championship winner, Vittorio Wiktor. So preparing for nationals, I mean, you want to have all pretty much four of the top decks in mind. And those are Blackwing, Lightsworn, Cat Synchro, and Dark Synchro. So if you've been keeping up on the meta at all, then you know these four decks are the ones that are really in the spotlight, along with Gladiator Beasts, but they've sort of fallen out of the spotlight. So if I was going to nationals, my first pick would definitely be Blackwing. And I really like the build that Matt Petal used to get second at Canadian Nationals. I'm sure you can find that if you just Google Matt Petal Gladiator Beasts, or Blackwings, sorry. And so, I mean, there are a lot of things I like about the deck. Basically, they can play out of anything. I mean, they have Icarus attack and Gale. Gale has a monster's attack. You can run over a Stardust, anything with less than 2600 attack. So it's very easy to create big swings like that. They have a lot of inherent special summon monsters like Bora, so it's very easy to sort of swarm and take control of a game that your opponent might have thought they won by special summoning a bunch of monsters. And sort of best of all, they have OTKs available. With a Black Whirlwind, there's tons of combinations that lead to an OTK. And that's really helpful because, like, even though you might not get it off all the time, it can punish a player with a bad hand, and the fear of OTKs leads to your opponent making sort of risky or plays that they might not if you did not have an OTK. So yeah, they have outs to a lot of situations with Icarus, and they have access to level 8 and 7 synchros, which are the two best levels at the moment. With Solemns, I mean, it can play a lot like Teledad in a way if you can drop a Stardust and protect it really well. And one of my favorite parts about the deck is that you can side really effectively versus all the other deck types. You can side Deck Devastation Virus or Light Mirrors or Drains. Skill Drain is a huge card in the Blackwing side. You can side that against Lightsworn or Cat Synchro. The Deck Devastation is something that Petal didn't use, but I think is very effective versus Cat Synchro. You have Sirocco. You would probably side in a third Sirocco if you were siding Deck Devastation. And you also have all your Synchros and Sirocco boosting a monster. Yeah, you have a lot of targets for Deck Devastation Virus. So yeah, you have a good advantage on it with Whirlwind and Gale. It's more of a Gale abuse deck than anything, and Blizzard also creates that +1 advantage. And then you just have a lot of options, and Blackwings are really just scary to play against, and that would be what I was running if I was going to Nationals. I'm not, unfortunately. So moving on, Lightsworn is also a sort of top pick in this metagame. The thing that I think most people like about them is that if you mill really well turn 1, which basically means Lumina into Garroth, which is not that hard to do with Charge of the Light Brigade and Solar Recharge. And if you mill well and hit Necrogardenas and have Honest in hand, and if you're hitting Lightsworns with Garroth, so that means you draw cards, then you're just gaining a ton of advantage, and it's pretty much impossible for your opponent to beat you with the Necrogardenas. Necrogardenas is a huge card in Lightsworn. You main 3 because you want to mill them as often as possible. If you have a Necroguard in the grave, it's insanely difficult for your opponent to OTK you, as anyone who has played against it will know. It negates an attack, so they have to put like way over 8,000 damage on the board. And that's really, I think, Lightsworn's biggest advantage right now, is that they have access to Necrogardener more efficiently than the other decks. Because a lot of the other decks will sort of aim to OTK you, and if you have Necroguard in the graveyard, obviously they can't do that. So I think Gardener is a huge card and is what leads to Lightsworn's success a lot of the time. They also have access to Arcus, which is sort of a really good tech pick, and I predict it being seen at Nationals a lot this weekend. It negates targeting effects, which means like Mind Control, Gale, pretty much anything that tries to break your setup. And if you have Honest and Necrogarna, then you can just protect Arcus and your other Lightsworns really well, and it'll make for a really hard lock to break for your opponent. And another sort of cool thing about Lightsworn, not as much related, is that like they're a really like themed deck if you want to build it that way. I've seen a few builds on Duelist Grounds by J-Hub and Bowden, and like they have pretty much all Lightsworn monsters. There's like no darks or anything. Like their whole monster lineup is Lightsworn, which is pretty cool. Like if you've played for a while, you know that for a while there weren't really any themed decks, but now you sort of have a very themed deck, even though like some people say it's really luck based, but even so, it's cool to see the evolution that the game has gone through. So yeah, Lightsworn are a really strong pick just because of Necrogarnas and sort of that unbeatable setup that everyone who has lost to Lightsworn should know. Like they mill really strong with Garroth, and it's pretty much impossible to win. So Lightsworn can do that, but they can also draw really, really, really poorly. And like getting multiple wolves or multiple Necrogarnets, which is not as bad, but still pretty bad, that will just lose you games. And that's why for like a 10-round tournament like Nationals, I really would not want to play Lightsworn, because you're just going to lose to your own draws, and that really sucks when like there's actually nothing you can do, and it's just your own draws that lose you the game. So I really just don't want to play the deck that luck-based if I was going to Nationals. But I'm sure there will be some people who do get really lucky with it and top with it. And like it's a very strong deck, and it's a lot more difficult to play than a lot of people realize, because you really have to consider the possibility of you milling your whole deck and then losing. Like if your opponent draws like Gores then and Necrogarners or any other things, like it's very possible that you can do that. So you have to be really careful if you're a smart Lightsworn player. And I think a lot of people aren't smart, unfortunately, so they just play it like a really luck-sacky deck. But it's actually quite difficult to play if you're like playing against really good people, or in a Lightsworn mirror when they have access to Necrogarners too. Like it's really hard to play. And I sort of forgot, but obviously they have access to Judgment Dragon, which is probably the best monster in the game right now. It wipes the whole board. Yeah, it's just amazing. So yeah, Lightsworn, good deck, but probably not what I played in Nationals, just because they get really inconsistent. And so the sort of third deck is Dark Synchro, and they sort of haven't been given very much spotlight compared to Black Wings or Lightsworn. Those are probably the two big decks. And Dark Synchro won the first jump, though, which was mostly due to it being unexpected. Jeff Jones made a really, really good metagame call, because most people were playing Gladiator Beast or attacking against Gladiator Beast, and he ran Skill Drain in his Dark Synchro deck, and it just completely destroyed everyone, and it was a really, really good metagame call. But unfortunately, I don't think that sort of same thing will happen again. Like, I don't think you can go to Nationals this year maining a Skill Drain because there's going to be a ton of Blackwing. Like, it'll probably be the most played deck. So, and Blackwing can play really, really well against Skill Drain, and even the other decks don't have as huge a problem against it as Gladiator Beast. Like, there won't be as much Gladiator Beast, so there's not as much reason to play Skill Drain. But that being said, Dark Synchro is still a really strong deck, and I've been testing a version called Salvodad, which has sort of gained popularity, especially on Duelist Grounds in the past week or so. That uses Dekoichi and Black Salvo, so you can get out level 7s pretty easy, and Dekoichi is like a really solid monster, and it just replaces itself and thins your deck. But it's hard because that loses to Mind Control. If they Mind Control your Dekoichi, they flip it, draw a card, and then if they're synchroing with it, like, that's really hard to come back from. That's a huge advantage swing. So, like, Dark Synchro and Salvodad, like, they're both good decks. It has trouble versus Mind Control, but I do like that it draws really consistently if you build it well, and, like, I've been doing really well with Salvodad online. I don't know if it'll be played that much at Nationals. I'm not really sure what the feel is. I've heard a lot of people from California are playing it because Adam Korn and Comic Odyssey have sort of invented a good version of the deck, I guess. It also doesn't get, like, if they crush card you, it doesn't hit as many cards as it would versus, say, Blackwings. That's a pretty big weakness of Blackwings, that a lot of their cards get killed by crush card. And Dark Synchro has really good access to crush card because they main a lot of less than 1,000 attack dark monsters. So probably easier access than other decks. So that's why I think Dark Synchro will be played